SoulSpeak Living in Color, where we talk about inspirations, following your dreams, and what lights your fire. I'm your host, Sam Philyaw, Rainbow and Thunder voiceover. You can find me at samphilyawo.com. Hey everybody, welcome and thanks for listening to SoulSpeak Living in Color. I'm your host, Sam, and today is episode 3 featuring voiceover artist Greg Arnold. So Greg's voice can be found mostly in video games, animation, commercials, and some narrations. He's also multi-talented in sports like arm wrestling. Isn't that awesome? The foxtrot and karate. You can find some of his demos. You can find some of his projects as well on his website at gregarnoldvoices.com. That's gregarnoldvoices.com. And without further ado, we have Greg here. So welcome and thank you for joining us, Greg.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. Yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your voiceover journey so far.
So my voiceover journey, well, it started out when my wife and I had went to an anime con back in 2013, and it was before it got like so massive, for the location, but there were all sorts of top level talent in the anime industry, like Travis Willingham, Scott McNeil, J. Michael Tatum, Erica Mendez, Johnny Young Bosch, and I think even Sean Schemmel was there that year. But in any case, I went to a few of their panels, and they were talking about their career, how much fun it is despite the amount of work that they have to do, how much time that it takes, and they need to continuously audition, so on and so forth. Well, anyway, I fell in love with the idea of voice acting. I used to want to be an actor when I was a kid, but the narrative was you had to go to LA, New York, in order to make something of yourself of it. But it didn't dawn on me to pursue voiceover. So anyway, I liked the idea of getting behind the mic and looking as ridiculous as you want without a camera being on you, and be in your PJs and essentially be in any character that you desire. Whereas on film, you got to stick with most of the time what your appearance is, and it's just I just liked I like the element of fictional characters in animation and video games where they've evolved over the years, where they've become very influential, and how you're inspired by them. And I aim to be some sort of influence to whether it be like kids, if I'm ever doing a voice for a popular cartoon, or anybody in the gaming industry that just enjoys a good story. But anyway, as far as my actual journey, didn't mean to get off the rail here.
Okay.
I started out by searching online for a webinar of like what it takes to get started in it, and then I learned a few basic things. Long story short, I find a couple of free voice casting sites like Cast a Call Club, Voice Acting Club, Behind the Voice Actors. And eventually I found myself the right coach for me, a few coaches to define my genres, my voice types, arsenal, and auditioned for while I was auditioning for like hobby gigs. And eventually I made my way to some freelancing sites like Upwork, Freelancer, and People Per Hour. And I met my first paid client who had been an e-learning e-course publisher. And I've done, a couple of hundred of those. And, they were my first client, and I had gotten continuous work for them over the years. And then I started networking with indie game developers. And while auditioning for the other casting sites, eventually getting my demo produced and sent out to agencies. And now I'm just I just keep working until my next gig. That's pretty much where I'm at.
That sounds like the life of a voice actor right there.
Yeah. No, it's
a constant until our next gig.
Yeah, well, 90% of it is you finding the work, whereas the others is just like you're actually doing the work. But when you do that one job, like you'll get maybe like one job out of like 100 literally that you audition, but it definitely makes it makes the grind worthwhile.
It makes the serotonin boost. So elated. Oh my God, thank you so much for choosing me.
Absolutely. Oh, I know. It's a rush. Like your heart drops. Like you can't even walk at that point. Like I even tell my wife, like, hey, are you reading what I'm reading? I just want to make sure that that I'm not misunderstanding anything.
Exactly. I'm imagine my first day of, because I'm eventually going to get an animation demo or toy demos and stuff like that. And I imagine myself on the first day of me getting chosen for like an anime or a cartoon or something. I'm gonna bawl, cry
I know.
so hard.
Yeah, it still does not get old. I mean, even after, okay, I've been doing this for 6 years, and even though I'm only part time, I guess I'd say I've been around somewhat long enough, but it still does not get old. Like the feeling of being cast, like it's still a very refreshing, invigorating feeling
Yes.
when you're chosen out of the hundreds of auditions that casting directors would get. It definitely does not get old. I still dream. Anime is what got me wanting to start it, and I still aim to be in an anime dub one day. But it's definitely very niche. But don't limit yourself.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's actually the same reason why I started looking into voice acting, is because we had been watching anime, and then all of a sudden I realized that these people behind the characters on the screen, that's their job. That's what they do. And I was like, oh my gosh, what? That's a thing? Can you
Yeah.
imagine being in the studio and like voicing all these characters? They're so dramatic and they're having
Mhm.
to do all of these facial expressions. And that's what sparked my interest as well. And I went down that rabbit hole so fast.
It's a workout, especially if you're doing it like at home. Unless if you're like in a basement or something, it gets really hot. Like if you're in a closet, like even during the fall or winter season, it can get hot. If you're like flailing your arms. I mean, it's definitely encouraged that you look as ridiculous as you can with your facial expressions and just you know doing some like physicality of the character. It's a rush.
That kind of reminds me. When I was in one of my classes last year with Ned Lott, uh,
Ah, okay.
he's awesome. He had us doing pretty much what would be like a dubbing scene. So we would uh, sync our voices with the timing of the
Yeah.
video. And he had me doing Rapunzel, and I would just mimic her movements exactly, and it felt so exaggerated to me. But after they edited it and did it, it looked so great. It's perfect.
Absolutely. And that's why it's like really important when you're doing voice acting. I mean, like I said, you don't have the privilege of the camera on you when you're doing film, because when you're on film, you don't even have to speak in order for people to know that this person's a pretty good actor, but everything has to convey like from here. So it's really important to just emote however you can in order to be authentic with what you want to get out on there, because like people can't see you, of course. So but that's what makes it a lot more fun, because I like looking ridiculous and cartoony and
Right. It's kind of a thrill when they can't see your face. They're just seeing what character that you're voicing as, and you look just as ridiculous as the character.
exactly. Or if you're like, wait a minute, that guy's voicing this guy, this big arm guy's voicing this nerd. Well, I mean, he looks like a nerd. It works.
Exactly.
A lot of times you're still typecast, but it's still fun.
So you found your way in through anime, looking through webinars, and trying it out, going through that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So whenever you started, did you know that this was going to be what you wanted to do, or was it going to be like a hobby for you at the time and you kind of grew into it?
Yes, I knew this was something that I wanted to do. At the same time, I was I was really nervous because I knew it was going to be something that I had to start socializing. I'm not the most social person, at least in real life, and it's just I had this I had a little bit of a crippling fear that, okay, if I start asking for help, are people going to look at me and be like, hey, why should I waste this guy's time? He's not experienced. I don't know. It's like I had this preconceived notion, but I knew for a fact that it is something that I genuinely wanted to do, or at least kind of release any or expel any kind of excess energy that I might might have, or any pent up energy that I have. And I don't know, it's like I used to want to be an actor when I was a kid, and I just feel like, well, I'm going to regret it if knowing that I'm going to regret it if I don't give this a fair shot. And eventually, I don't know, it's like eventually I grew to love it even more and more. And then when I started to, uh, I guess, kind of see the fruits of my labor, for lack of a better term, it started to resonate with me. That's like, this is amazing. I mean, this is what it feels like to get there. So I grew from it, but at the same time, I knew this was something I really wanted to do, and I got to give this a fair chance. Otherwise, I'm gonna regret it the rest of my days.
I love it. So how long did you train for before you got your first job or
Before I
gig?
got my first job, I would say it took me roughly 3, maybe 4 months. Well, if we're talking about paid gig, it was about 3 or 4 months. I think it took me about a month when I got my first unpaid hobbyist gig, because I started out on behind the voice actors doing machinimas for Sims. I did do a few of that and met a few cool, really cool people. And in the meantime, I did not have the setup. So that's another thing. So my first paid client on my on one of the freelancing sites, this one was freelancer.com, I believe, but they said, we actually like your voice, we like your demeanor for this, but do you have like a pop filter and a kind of like an interface or a preamp? And I said, because embarrassingly enough, I didn't know when the right time was to get the right equipment, or if I was ready for that kind of thing. But I had no choice but to invest. But I had like one of those real crappy Logitech headsets. So it's like, obviously that wasn't going to work. But they said, oh well, if you can get that equipment, you got the job. So thankfully it paid for itself in a matter of 2 months of doing the work. I got my Scarlett Studio mic and the Focusrite interface and a pop filter, and so yeah, it took me roughly 3, maybe 4 months before I got my first paid gig. Even though I wasn't really training in narrations, I was training in character. But yeah, that's kind of. But I guess in terms of character, not very much long after that. I'd say about like a half a year before I got to any character paid work.
What was your first character related paid
It
work?
was it's something that's not released in public. This was one of those it was for an indie developer that was submitting for some game programming contest, and I was the antagonist on there. It was a real it was kind of like one of those choppy kind of an RPG look to it, and you're kind of solving a kidnapping on there, and I was the antagonist. Changung was the name of the guy. So I don't even remember what he sounds like. So like anybody asks, oh, can you do the voice from? I don't know. He was a he was a Chinese guy. I remember that. So it was
That's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was my first paid gig, and then and I can't remember what else I did until I got cast for Infinite Adventures, but I know I did a few other. But a lot of the jobs that I did get cast, what tends to happen, and this is what I really want to stress. Do not get too discouraged when this happens, but this does happen. A lot of projects fall off the face of the earth. So like, even after you do the work, and sometimes you even get paid, but not all the time you see the fruits of your labor, because someone's like, oh well, we can't afford to keep my staff, or my staff's not doing their job, so no projects. So there was definitely a few of those in between before I got Infinite Adventures.
Yeah, that kind of sucks. I have been lucky enough to have been paid for every project that I've done, even if they did fall off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
But I know there's been a few people tell me that that's happened to them, and I cannot imagine, because I'm like, I don't play with money, dude. If you tell me you're gonna pay me, you go pay me. I don't care what the project turns out.
Well, yeah, the service has been rendered, and this is something that like people that are just starting, really should know, is that even if the game is not released, you are still due your pay. You are still due for the amount of work that you do. Make sure that they pay you. Don't fall for the, okay, well, once we get money and afterwards, so do this work, and then once once we get money in a little later, that's when we pay you. Do not buy into that. It's because your time is well deserved.
I want to put in there, and the way that you do that is have some form of a contract, or like if you're emailing and they don't want to sign a contract, make sure you put all the details in an email and say, this is what we're going to do. And then you have that at least. And then as soon as you're done with the recording, send that invoice.
Yep. No,
or get paid up front. I mean, if you get paid up front, that's awesome.
Yeah,
but
even just simple as like a PayPal invoice, and just making sure that you agree in writing. And I also have like a contract template for those. But yeah, definitely. I know there are sources out there for very basic services rendered type of agreement. So it's definitely worth getting into that if you're wanting to make like a career out of it. Some people just want to do it as a hobby, with nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But I mean, it's like if you want to make something up yourself, that from a entrepreneurial standpoint, that's those are the steps you take.
Absolutely, be prepared. It does not hurt to take a entrepreneurial legality class.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So I do want to talk a little bit about your dream role. Actually, two things. What is your favorite role that you've done so far? And then what would be your ultimate dream role that would just be like the highlight of your career ever?
Very good questions. I would say that my favorite role to this day, I think the one that I probably like the most, it's a toss up between James Hawkins from Black Wind, which is an upcoming hack and slash game that's coming up. He was definitely high energy. He was a 16-year-old, and he's like getting involved in this mech fighting thing. Like he has no choice, but no spoilers, but but he was definitely a lot of high energy. I really like the high energy characters, but I think my favorite is between him and an NPC bot that I did in Encodia, which was by Chaos Monger Games, and he was very interesting. He was eccentric, but very exciting, and you proceed at your own risk. Amazing. I don't just like. I really like doing I like doing that bots, and that was probably the only role that legitimately gave me such a workout that I actually started to sweat a little bit. It was definitely I definitely was feeling it afterwards. Feel it, Mr. Krabs.
Good luck, adventurer.
Yeah, but yeah, I definitely like the ones that give me the workout in that aspect. But now a dream role, I still to this day I would say any kind of anime dub that I would do, because that was what got me wanting to start it to begin with. But I would say something that allows me to continue being that character going forward, something on the lines of like The Simpsons, something like that, something that's very that could definitely pay off for essentially the rest of your days and be able to live comfortably doing what you love to do.
I think that's what every character voice actor would want.
True. And yeah, just any kind of AAA title game. Yeah. Being involved in that, that would definitely be up there.
That would be awesome. Okay, cool. So let's talk about a few of the other passions, like the sports. You had like a whole list of them on your resume that I saw.
Yeah.
I totally want to talk about arm wrestling because that's super cool. And I've never heard of that being a sport until Mercedes told me. And I was like, what? I have to contact this guy.
Yeah, it's definitely a good one. Is that where you wanted to start, or is there something else?
Let's start there. You can tell me about whatever sports that your favorites are, what you prefer to do. Let's just talk about it a little bit. Tell me about it.
Talk about arm wrestling. Okay. Well, let's see. It started out with my dad doing it. Like, he's a pro arm wrestler himself, and this October actually marked 40 years that he's been in the sport, and he's still kicking ass in it. Like, he still beats guys that are half his age, or that are my age, even younger. So it's definitely a journey. Anyway, he started when he was in college, but anyway, he got me involved with it. I got exposed to a few tournaments, and he taught me. He's definitely my mentor, training partner as well. And And then I started out by doing like beginner tournaments when I was like a kid. Like they separate by categories, not just weight categories, but also divisions. Like there's beginners, and then there's amateurs, of people that have been around for a little bit but are not quite in the pro tier, and then there's the pros. So I started when I was 16 doing beginners tournaments, and then a couple of years later made my way to pro status, and it was just basically doing it with my dad, how he and I bond. And it's fun because like we've traveled nationwide to tournaments as well, and even went to a world championship up in Canada. And we recently just got back from Orlando with another world championship. So it's definitely been fun. I could tell a lot of stories.
Heck yeah, that is totally badass. I cannot imagine going to a world championship for arm wrestling. That's crazy.
The sport of arm wrestling, it's really not widely sponsored, so people don't hear a lot about it. But as technology is what it is nowadays, it's a lot more heard of. It's a lot easier for people to join groups. There are also teams, like people that kind of practice as teams, even though it's an individual sport and you could face like your team members, but it is still a great number of, you do see a lot of camaraderie there too, because like you kind of push each other to be better. And my dad's definitely a great inspiration, not just to me, but he also was actually a pretty prominent figure in the state of Ohio in the arm wrestling community back in the mid 80s and the 90s. And now that he made like a comeback a couple of years ago, now he's like seen as one of the top guys in the States. So it's been a good journey.
So how about the other sports that you do? Which other one is your favorite?
Other sports, I really like to run, and I actually run with our Siberian Husky every day.
Do you have a husky? Of course you have a husky.
I mean, he definitely drives me to keep at a certain threshold, weight threshold. It's keeps me healthy and active. Yeah. But when he's not arguing with you, he's like, I want eggs. But let's see. But yeah, I used to run cross country when I was in high school, and it was a lot of fun. I kind of miss that. But the other sports, I did karate. I ended up getting a second degree black belt in Tang Sudo, kind of a Korean style self-defense karate. And then I like tennis. I haven't played it a lot lately, but I can't really find a partner for tennis. But I hardly have any time for anything outside of what I'm doing already, from being a full-time programmer to doing voiceover to doing streaming to training for arm wrestling. So that's kind of what my agenda is. And
I forgot that you do streaming. I knew that Mercedes did streaming, and I thought that was how she knew you, but it totally slipped my mind. Is that part of how you're getting yourself out there and keeping your presence up, is through the Twitch streaming?
Yeah, to a degree. I mean, I do mention about my voiceover, and I still utilize my brand that I use on my website. But the reason that I did streaming originally was because I don't know, I started feeling overwhelmed, and kind of like the weight of the world was on my back. And I took a little bit of I put voiceover in a bit of the back burner, because I just felt like I was getting overwhelmed and not, I don't know. It's like, I just didn't feel that I wanted to get myself out there. This time I was going through some personal matters, and, thought that that I really loved playing video games, and I was addicted when I was a kid, and, but I hadn't played in several months. I mean, occasionally I'll pick up a controller, but streaming was kind of the incentive to get me to start like playing games that I really wanted to play. And while kind of, interacting with the chat, and it was
so kind of a form of therapy for you.
Yeah, it was a meditation, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was and then Mercedes was actually got me into streaming. As a matter of fact, we had actually met through this old dubbing channel. It doesn't quite exist anymore, but we met through that. And she did streaming for a little bit and succeeded in that, and said, all right, Greg, I want you, here's a goal. within a month, you're going to get affiliate. Like, I mean, I just want to have fun. But lo and behold, with her help and with my wife's help and with a few friends, I definitely crossed over that threshold in 3 weeks, which was a lot of fun. But even then, I don't really look at it as a means of income. I mean, even though it's cool to have, but I just like having fun and socializing with others and being able to have like the commonality of the game that I'm playing, and we can even talk about voiceover. So it's which is fine. But so anyway, it's been a pretty good break, and then I started getting myself back into the swing of things with voiceover. I actually just took a Cassandra Morris audition workout, so that's been that was a lot of fun.
That's cool.
It was definitely the rejuvenation that I kind of needed to start networking again.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay to take a break sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody needs
Oh
it.
yeah, absolutely. It is very important to make sure you treat yourself and make sure that your glass is full before you start fulfilling others.
Right. That's why I crochet. That's my meditation at night. So like, because I mean, auditioning constantly and feeling like you're not getting anywhere, that's such a common thing for voiceover. So I mean, you kind of got to find something that's just gonna take you out of your head, out of the thought of I'm never gonna land a gig. I don't ever get the ones that I really want.
Right.
But I say send it and forget it, which
submit and forget.
Everything. Yep. So I kind of do that anyway.
That's exactly what I do. I try and submit and forget, and I try not to hang on to this role. Like, okay, don't hang on to it. Just move on to the most important one is the next one. So if you get it, awesome. It's bonus. Which is kind of what Encodia, in this case with Encodia, it's very recommended that you submit as soon as you can, just so that way you're one of the first ones seen, and then they kind of know you. Well, I only had time to submit for a few of the NPCs, and it was the final night. It was the final night of the deadline, and I thought to myself, well, I'm not going to get it anyway. But but this character was this biped bot, that crazy bot that I was telling you about. It was he was so much fun. I'm like, man, like I just so the way that I got it was, and this is something that I should apply, or that I think people should apply whenever they're auditioning, but. How like when you were a kid, like a little kid, like 4 years old, and you wanted to pretend to be like a firefighter or a newscast anchor or a monster. You didn't care what your surroundings were. You didn't care about people judging you. You just went for it.
Right.
Well,
yep.
So I thought, okay, Greg, if you were 4 years old, if you were told to be a bipedal bot and be a little crazy, what would you think? And it took me a little bit to get into that mindset, that mind frame, and it was a lot of fun. And it's like, well, I mean, it's still pretty late. I'm not gonna get it. Lo and behold, I did. So it was the final night. It's like I got it. Like, did I snipe somebody? Because I feel bad. Because, but anyway,
listening to your inner child, I love it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, back to the whole taking a break and the mental health and so on and so forth. When you do a job that you are your own boss, your own salesperson, your own marketer, so on, it's very important that you do take time to yourself, and it stands to reason that you would get in your own head at times, but definitely know that it's that is your only true critic. So right. Just don't give credence to it for too long. Just know that there are hardships in any kind of career that you want to do, but take a break, because once it starts to feel like work, that's when you need to take time to yourself. And that's kind of what it was for a little bit, and why I started streaming, and I loved it. It was a great decision for me to make, and now I'm back to the swing of things.
Well, I love that you're following your dreams and your passions in voiceover. You're going for what you want, and that's the whole point of me doing this podcast. Is I don't get out. I don't get to talk. I don't talk to people very often. I'm an introvert trying to do a podcast. It's kind of crazy.
Me too.
But
me too.
But I really feel like not enough people understand that you can do it. You can succeed. You can follow your dreams and be okay.
Yeah.
It's not going to kill you.
I mean, with the way that technology is nowadays, I mean, it like 10 years, 15 years ago, it wouldn't have been possible to consistently do. I mean, I'm a small town Ohio voiceover who's going to be on a freaking console video game in in matter by the end of the year. Well, who have been in console games in a couple of them. So it's been it 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 really is possible. Basically, if I could do it, anybody can. If they just have the if they have faith in themselves.
Right? If you just put one foot in front of the other, you'll
Mm-hmm.
be okay.
And
Okay.
and there are going to be times where you get a setback, and that's this is how it is. You can fall, but just don't go back. Don't stay down. Just even if you have to crawl.
Right. And this is for any career, you guys. So like this whole podcast, I know it seems like I'm just doing a lot of voiceover people, but that's because I know a lot of voiceover people now. Like
Mhm.
a lot of them have become my friends. I didn't have very many friends before this. But this is for any career. I've been in several different industries and different careers, but I've always followed what I wanted to do at that time. This just so happens to be the thing that it was like an explosion in my brain. I was like, this, I have to do this. This is exactly what I've always wanted. So
Yeah, I think you articulated it pretty good in my case, because I was given that the acting industry, the entertainment industry is very cutthroat. I still had a little bit of the fear of like getting myself out there. But when it comes to voiceover and the veterans in the voiceover, there really are a lot of most of them are very wholesome and are very happy to provide sources and some help for those that are just starting. So, if you have any interest in voiceover whatsoever, please do it, because I believe that everybody is the right voice for something. It could be like a commercial product. It could be a character for a game, an animation, a narrator. Yeah, yeah. There are so many. There's a broad line of types and genres out there.
right, there's always going to be something that you might be interested in.
Indeed.
So we've gone through a whole lot of stuff, and we've got little nuggets of advice, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, who, it doesn't matter if they're voiceover or not, you can be anybody, who's your role model, or do you have more role models, like your inspirations for going after the things that you want, or pursuing voiceover, or I don't know, the person that makes you wake up in the morning instead of staying in bed.
Well, a couple of people that come to mind, firstly, my father, he's a business owner, but he's always been the type that doesn't let anything stop him. But especially the last couple of years, he's been especially inspiring because he had stage 4 cancer. And so, he had, long story short, after remission, he was administering my training regimen for arm wrestling, and he wanted to see me be a national champ. That was kind of like our goal. And he's like, well, seeing you go after it kind of makes me want to get back into it once I'm done with treatment. And it's like he didn't allow anything to stop him, and now he's like national champion, he took third in the world championships. Now he's still 2 years later, he's still kicking, he's still very healthy and very, very pleased with it.
That
But
is
anyway,
awesome.
he definitely shaped me to be like the ethical business person or the business type that I've kind of grown to be over the years. So, he's definitely something that comes to mind. And he's always, despite how busy that he gets, he always somehow is able to make time for others. Like, my grandmother, his mother, and any of his siblings and friends. He's I don't know how he does it, but I will never match the amount of hustle that guy has. But all I could do is try and just keep making him, trying to make him proud either way. But another inspiration is definitely my wife. She I don't know, she definitely has it all. Like she's the whole package. Like, she's incredibly smart. She's very tech savvy. She loves games, and she's hilarious. And I don't know, I met her almost 11 years ago, we started dating almost 11 years ago, and she definitely helped me be a more compassionate and better person. So I definitely owe a lot to her. And in terms of voiceover, my inspiration, definitely Robin Williams is is
Oh, my
definitely
heart.
good. I know, it's like I definitely felt that when I saw like yeah.
I think he's the only celebrity that I have ever actually shed a tear for when I heard that he died.
I know.
I was heartbroken.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely enriched the lives of many, like be it the characters that he voiced or just his presence in general. Like he's the type of guy that would just walk in and like the whole demeanor of the room would just shift to something a lot more fun and positive and just looking forward to what comes next. So he was definitely it was definitely a huge loss, one of the biggest, I would say.
Absolutely. Anybody else that you want to
Mm,
mention? Any coaches that you want to give a shout out to for your awesome budding career?
Well, definitely Mercedes Lewis. She and I have both kind of helped each other, but she definitely needs no introduction. She's an awesome talent as well. Let's see whom else coached me. Mark Cashman has coached me. He's a great guy. He knows his stuff. I've also been coached by Freddie Hogan, and yeah, that's pretty much all I can think of off the top of my head.
I think that's a fantastic list, honestly. And speaking of, I think that's a good place to stop and wrap it up, because this has been an awesome, amazing conversation. I'm so glad to have gotten to talk to you.
It's a privilege.
The next episode that we're gonna have is actually gonna be Miss Mercedes Lewis. We're gonna be in her presence with her awesome wigs and her colorful hair. I'm gonna love it.
Very rainbow mic gaming.
Yes.
just like her collection of wigs, she's got a very colorful, bubbly personality. It's I definitely owe a lot to her as well as far as my career goes. She's definitely helped keep me going. So she is definitely due the praise and the and the amount of respect. So I'm definitely grateful.
That's good. And remember, guys, if you want to check out his demos, Greg's demos or projects, if you want to look at the video games that he's coming up in, GregArnoldVoices.com. Please check him out. And then you can find my website at samphilyaw.com. Brand new, well, not brand new, but brand has been released. So thank you all for listening. Greg, I will let you go enjoy the rest of your day.
You do the same. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.